pro wrestlers, more often than not, end up being the most maladjusted, socially misfitted people you've ever met in your life. I mean, we have a new student over there, and he's probably listening to me now, and he's hearing what I'm saying, but he's not really hearing it. He's probably going, well, he's putting on good theater for the camera. No, pro wrestlers tend to think, I get trained, I learn how to fall down a little bit, and eventually an agent from the WWE is going to whisk me away to Clever Clever Land, and I'm going to be rich and famous. That's just not the way it works. Pro wrestling started off as a con in the carnivals to steal money from people. And that element remains to this day. It's a game that needs to be learned and mastered and played. I don't mind when people call it fake, because it is. It's not a competitive sport. As a wrestling fan, I hate seeing stuff that feels like it was of no consequence. So I try to make sure every PCW show feels like if you missed it, you really missed something.
I go by the Sensational J Fury. I've done a lot of work on the independent scenes, and in wrestling we call it the indie scenes. You have a term that's used in the industry called SmartMarks. And what that is smart wrestling fans, like who understand what's behind the scenes in the business, who understand wrestling. And those are what you got right here, those are SmartMarks. And they know a lot of these guys are new. And so what they're trying to do, they're trying to get up under their skin and make them mess up. And it's worked on me, and I've been in the game almost 9, 10 years. But at the same time, if it weren't for them, my promos wouldn't have got to the point where they are now.
Marco Polo, what's a note that you've gotten after a promo or a match or whatever? A note meaning, in theater, a note would be something somebody suggested that you do differently or whatever. That's what we call a note. And wrestling, they probably call it something else, but who gives a shit? What's a note that you've gotten?
Like while I'm cutting a promo, put the mic closer to my mouth.
And that cause and effect is pretty obvious, right? You want to put the microphone closer to your mouth. Why?
So people can hear me.
Yep. Because if they can't hear you, what do they think?
I'm scared or don't know
You
what
don't know
I'm
what the fuck
doing.
you're doing. And that's the number one thing we have to prevent is people always have to believe you know what you're doing. And that goes for referees and everything else. They've got to think you know what you're doing.
We have a real vocal crowd, and the crowd, like, he'll tell you a new one if you let it. Like, the crowd here is no joke. And we've left them sitting there quiet on countless occasions because of what we've done in the ring.
So I would go out and I would antagonize the crowd and I would get them mad. They would expect me to get the crap beat out of me. That's what the crowd needed, and I'm always very conscious of that. That we're constantly fighting this, in my mind, a war. And so I treat it as such, which is perhaps a little psychotic, but I think if you're not a little psychotic in the wrestling business, then you should get out. Because if you're a completely sane, rational person, you would be doing something else.